Tonight, breaking news, the Hunter Valley bus crash driver hit with 26 new offences, including multiple manslaughter charges. Sydney's wet and wild Monday. Trees down, roads under, cars out of control. Sealed with a kiss, our Mary becomes Queen of Denmark, celebrated by millions. The port's pay dispute threatens to push up prices at the checkout. And Alex de Minaur is warming up for the biggest tournament of his life. We're live to Melbourne Park ahead of tonight's Australian Open showdown.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news on the police investigation into the Hunter Valley wedding bus crash, which killed 10 people in June last year. Let's go straight to reporter Sophie Upcroft at the Sydney Police Centre. Sophie, you have a significant development.
Pete, I can confirm that the driver allegedly behind the wheel, Brett Andrew Button, has now been charged with 26 new offences. Those include 10 counts of manslaughter for each of the victims killed, as well as 16 counts of driving furiously, causing bodily harm, which relate to the manner in which he was driving in the moments leading to the crash. This is a significant upgrade in the eyes of the law. Each of those counts of manslaughter carry a maximum sentence of 25 years if found guilty. Adding that to Button's existing charge sheet, he is now facing a total of 89 charges. And tonight he is free on bail, living with his family. But that could change on Wednesday, Pete, when he is due to face a magistrate for the first time on these new charges.
OK, Sophie, thank you. Our emergency crews have had a busy 24 hours clearing fallen trees, fixing leaking ceilings and closing flooded roads. The downpour of summer rain falling right across the city with more than 100 millimetres in some suburbs.
Our sparkling harbour swallowed by grey, gloomy clouds. Middle Harbour almost vanished. The sky unleashed. And Sydney copped a soaking. At Castle Hill, SES swarmed what was a close call. The homeowner telling 9 News the roof of 2 bathrooms and a bedroom caved in.
This is just one of the many trees that fell across the state overnight. This one was uprooted before it slammed down on the roof. The SES say it was lucky nobody was outside when it came down.
The force of the deluge brought branches down at Linfield too and caused flash flooding across the city. The SES were kept busy. In the last 24 hours, it received around 300 calls for help. Repeat offender Wakehurst Parkway went under, so too roads at Manly, after receiving 90 millimetres, one of the worst hit suburbs. Streets and footpaths resembled rivers, making the walk to work a wet one and a dicey commute.
We've got really humid conditions, really warm sea surface temperatures at the moment, all of that combining to put a lot of moisture into the atmosphere and generate the shower activity.
This truck was no match for the slippery conditions, jackknifing at Macquarie Park, before this car rolled at Sydney Olympic Park and another car at the Blue Mountains. At Parramatta, SES diverted traffic around newly formed pools.
The most important thing, though, is that the community makes sensible decisions, doesn't cross any flooded roadways, and makes sure that they keep themselves and their families safe.
Spare a thought for those at sea. This is a rocky and almost certainly sickening ride across the harbour. The wild weather even turning this waterfall upside down. Maggie Rayworth, 9 News.
And Belinda's here. Which suburbs received the biggest drenching?
Pete, Sydney North copping the worst of it. By 9 a.m, North Rocks and North Parramatta had recorded more than 100 millimetres. Richmond had its wettest day in nearly 2 years with 98 millimetres. 86 for Terry Hills, its heaviest January rainfall in 9 years, and 8 years for Penrith. Conditions easing today since 9 a.m. Most suburbs recording less than 5 millimetres. Richmond the wettest with a further 16. The coastal trough and moist onshore winds which generated those heavy showers and storms moving up the coast. So far, Ballina recording about 80 millimetres, its wettest January day in 11 years. And tonight, heavy rainfall is developing across parts of northern New South Wales, with localised severe storms out west. And Sydney is in for more showers tomorrow. When will they clear? I'll be back with the latest forecast after sport, Pete.
Belinda, thank you. Australia officially has its first Queen, with Hobart-born Mary Donaldson ascending to Denmark's throne alongside her husband. Thousands celebrated in the streets of Copenhagen, waving Danish and Australian flags, making what was meant to be a low-key affair anything but.
A crowning glory, royally sealed with a kiss. To the delight of tens of thousands gathered outside Christiansborg Palace. King Frederick X and Queen Mary, Australian-born, now a Danish sovereign. This day has been decades in the making, but in line with the low-key style monarchy here, there was no coronation and little ceremony. But its significance for the Danes abundantly clear. Every vantage point a sea of red and white flags. And there were some true blue ones as well. Sheridan and her family, originally from Brisbane. What's it like being an Aussie in Copenhagen right now?
It's really exciting. It's fun walking around with a kangaroo because we stand out.
Mary's such an amazing role model for young girls all over the world, and she's so elegant both in her style and her actions.
The historic occasion began at the Amalienborg Palace, with the changing of the guard before the changing of the throne. Visitors on the freezing morning given a warm welcome from down under.
Today, I think Australians want to show their support for the new King and Queen.
It was just after 1:30 when crowds had their first glimpse of Mary waving from the car on the way to Christiansborg Palace, along with Frederick and their son, 18-year-old Christian, the incoming heir. Close behind them, the much-loved and long-serving Margrethe II, riding in the 19th century golden wedding carriage made for the 50th anniversary of her great-great-grandparents. The mood jubilant. Most throne accessions are sombre after the death of a monarch, but today, with the first voluntary abdication in 800 years, it was all celebration. The official proceedings started and finished within minutes. Queen Margrethe signed the Declaration of Abdication at a Council of State meeting in Christiansborg. Frederick invited to take her seat. God save the king, she said, and she left the palace, letting her son have the moment. And what a moment it was. An emotional Frederick greeting crowds from the balcony. He wiped away tears as the Prime Minister officially proclaimed him king, with 9 hurrahs echoed by the Danish people. His speech was brief. It's a responsibility I take on with respect, pride and great joy, he said. I'm going to need all the support I can get from my beloved wife, from my family, from you. Then he was joined by his queen, dressed in an elegant white gown, and the reaction was loud and clear. Their 4 children then emerged, a united family front, following questions in recent days about the state of the couple's marriage. Frederick and Mary holding hands arm in arm. That kiss today and those tears, reminiscent of their 2004 wedding.
While Frederick was born into royalty, this completes an extraordinary journey for his wife. When she first came here, she was Mary Donaldson. Now she's greeted as Queen Mary.
3 visitors from Sydney among those celebrating, coming within metres of royalty.
What was it like seeing them go past?
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Could not have got a better view. In 10, 20, 50 years, we'll be thinking we were there when Mary became Queen. And Frederick too, I guess, is there.
Well wishes coming too from other royal families. King Charles saying, I look forward to working with you on ensuring that the enduring bond between our countries and our families remains strong. As a display of 5,000 fireworks lit up the skies over Copenhagen, Australian celebrations went into the night.
Even though, yes, we've had to hand her over, sort of officially, she will always, have a place in our heart.
In Copenhagen, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
And Nine's Euro correspondent Brett McLeod is in Copenhagen as the new King and Queen wake up to their first day on the job.
Just a short while from now, the new King and Queen will leave here at Amalienborg and head to the Danish Parliament. There'll be a formal reception for them there. That'll be the last of the official duties acknowledging the rise of Frederick X and Queen Mary. A much more low-key affair than what we saw yesterday with those incredible scenes on the streets of Copenhagen. It's estimated more than 100,000 people took part. That's in a city of only 600,000 people. But there's been a lot of grim news around lately, so you can understand why in the land of Hans Christian Andersen, people wanted to indulge in a bit of a fairy tale just for a day.
Brett, thank you. For nearly 20 years, she was Australia's princess. Today, she's Queen Consort and still our Mary. As her position was cemented among European royalty, her ascension was celebrated 16,000 kilometres away, back home in Tasmania.
Stepping up, Denmark's new queen. The girl from Taroona, now the toast of Tassie. From their living rooms, Australians watched as history was made.
I actually got quite emotional when I saw her standing on the balcony.
Mary's cousin Jacqueline, overwhelmed by the moment.
I actually don't know how to put it into words of how proud we all are of her. I really don't. It's very emotional and it's a very big time for the family.
Her mother passed away long before she became princess.
I like to think she's been part and parcel of this last weekend. I'm sure she has.
Henrietta Donaldson's best friend Christine, confident Mary will do Australia proud.
I know she will do a wonderful job. She's a very caring, responsible, kindly person.
On the river in Hobart, the Pink Ladies, today the Red Queens.
Cheers to Queen Mary!
A paddle out in honour of our Mary.
Oh, this is wonderful. Tasmanian. I went to Taroona High. We're all behind Queen Mary.
Another splash of red and white at Tasmania's Government House as locals wrote well wishes.
I think she will do an amazing job and he's a lucky man.
Oh, this is just a fantastic day for Queen Mary. She has carried herself in a way that I think just brings enormous support and pride to all Australians.
Last night, landmarks lit up. The Tasman Bridge, a nod to the Danish monarchy.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Very eloquent, respectful, beautiful and born to be a queen. So congratulations.
In Hobart, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Foreign Minister Penny Wong is tonight on her way to the Middle East for a week-long visit, marking 100 days since the October 7 Hamas terror attack on Israel. Minister Wong will use her trip to renew calls for a ceasefire and advocate for the avoidance of further regional conflict.
Australia is not a central player in the Middle East, but we are a respected voice. And I'll be using our voice to advocate for a pathway out of this conflict.
Pro-Palestinian protesters today took to the streets in Canberra, marching past the Israeli embassy to demand a ceasefire. The industrial standoff over pay at our ports could stretch on for months, threatening jobs and the cost of clothes and white goods. Tonight, DP World and the unions are calling for intervention to end the dispute and prevent price rises.
Problems at our ports tonight are warning there's worse to come.
We expected this to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and maybe months and months and months, and there's an escalation of that and a snowball effect on that.
DP World is one of our major port operators, with clothing and white goods for major retailers flowing in, while Australian meat and produce is leaving our shores. The company prices the dispute at $84 million every week, a cost that now could be bound for consumers.
We need to make sure that we've got goods moving around the country.
Tonight, rolling 2-hour stoppages continue, plus longer pauses in some ports.
So that's a little bit like parking a truck in a drive-through at McDonald's and saying, look, I'm parking this one here.
We need politicians in Australia to stop dancing to the tune of the royal family of Dubai and back Australian workers.
The current offer is for an 8% sign-on bonus, followed by an 8% pay rise for the current year and 8% next year, plus added super, with company figures putting the average current wage around $130,000 per year. The union's banking on unity between Australia's shippers and shoppers.
Pay rises for Australian families means money in the Australian economy, in all of our local economies around the country.
Both sides want government intervention, but tonight there's no sign of that.
We think all parties should come back to the table and negotiate in good faith. We do know that this needs to be resolved as quickly as it can be.
While it's the ports threatening prices, the government may choose the supermarkets for intervention, with an ACCC investigation now looming. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
8 months after the attack, the government has revealed the Prime Minister's office, Reserve Bank and Australia Post were among the agencies which had data stolen by Russia-linked hackers. The information was in the 2.5 million documents stolen from the servers of law firm HWL Ebsworth in April. Compromised in the hack, national security information and private medical data of vulnerable people. A swell in summer passengers is inspiring a renewed appeal to the government to invest more in the cruise industry. As popularity grows, industry analysts say we need bigger ports to support the demand.
One of the country's best-known artists and one of the world's most iconic views. Painter and reluctant sailor David Bromley on the deck of the Queen Elizabeth, turning a 72-hour voyage from Melbourne to Sydney into art.
And I'm lying on the ground painting these things, and the sheer beauty of it took over.
Inspired marketing from British cruise company Cunard as its Australian season begins.
We are, shall we say, full on.
P&O also with a new campaign. Because right now, industry analysts say cruising is what travellers of all ages want.
We've actually did 2 back-to-back ones. We did the culinary cruise and then from Melbourne up to Sydney.
I will be doing this again tomorrow if I could do.
New figures from the Tourism and Transport Forum show 1 in 4 of us will board one of these ships this year. But with so many vessels coming in and out of our harbour, they're also calling for more government support.
We'd like to encourage them to move as quickly as possible on this. What we really need now is certainty about the capacity in Sydney Harbour.
A push for more space at Eden in southern New South Wales and for new investment in Wollongong's Port Kembla.
There's working groups at the moment looking at all options.
Post-COVID domestic travel gathering strength, but tonight wider calls for greater action in bringing back tourists from overseas.
There's a lot of work to be done by the tourism bodies and the government and airlines to bring more capacity in.
In the meantime, the oceans are ours.
Once you cruise, that's it.
Ruth Wynne-Williams, 9 News.
A 9-year-old is tonight in a critical condition after he was attacked by a crocodile in Kakadu National Park. The boy was bitten while swimming in a remote area near the main township of Jabiru that isn't accessible to the general public. He has been airlifted to Darwin Hospital. After months of campaigning, we're now less than 24 hours from the official start of the race to the White House. As we go to air tonight, former US President Donald Trump holds a significant lead in the latest polls in the key battleground state of Iowa. But come tomorrow, those who can bear the cold will have their say.
A convoy through the snow-covered cornfields. It seems far away, but it's here in Iowa where the race to the White House begins.
Saving America begins with President Trump and begins tomorrow here in Iowa.
The caucuses mark the first test of the 2024 election cycle, not just because they'll be the coldest on record.
It is freezing cold here.
But because the outcome can help build or break a candidate's momentum.
But these caucuses are your personal chance to score the ultimate victory over all of the liars, cheaters, thugs, perverts, frauds, crooks, freaks, creeps, and other quite nice people.
In a final push to secure support, the former president was armed with a large pile of pizzas, and tonight an even larger lead in the polls.
Next to God, he's one of the greatest men going. He's the best president I think we ever had in the United States.
The question is, will it be a race to second place for Donald Trump's rivals, or could Iowa reshape this race?
The momentum and the energy on the ground is strong.
You have the ability to change the trajectory of American politics.
On a night where turnout matters, it's the weather, which is rapidly becoming every candidate's biggest threat. Who can convince the most Iowans to caucus in this unbearable cold?
Do you think that cold's going to stop people from caucusing tomorrow?
Definitely.
Voters must place their ballot in person. With that rule, it's a cold caucus ahead.
So brave the weather and go out and save America, because that's what you're doing. Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
In Des Moines, Iowa, Lauren Tomazi, 9 News.
Next in the news, hungry thieves at work caught on camera stealing stock from a popular Lugano cafe. Traffic chaos on one of Sydney's busiest roads, a spill to blame, the details coming up. Also, the uni courses where students can now get $12,000 off their fees. Why Princess Anne has become a surprise men's fashion icon.
And what was once the linchpin of Australia's air defence now resides in a Sydney driveway.
A diesel spill brought traffic to a standstill in Sydney's eastern suburbs today. The rain making the clean-up more difficult, with oil stretching from Double Bay to Rushcutters Bay. A section of New South Head Road was closed for almost 4 hours. A cafe in Sydney's south is tonight looking for a group of hungry thieves who stole boxes of their stock. And they're taking the search into their own hands. The manager turning to the tight-knit community to help identify the culprits.
It's just past 4 a.m. at this closed Lugano cafe. A group loitering outside peek into newly delivered boxes, discovering freshly baked goods inside. Celebrating, one tucks into a croissant as another bundles the boxes into a nearby car.
Croissants freshly made, a bunch of donuts were also freshly made, and some cakes. All gone, just like that.
Hundreds of dollars worth of goods swiped from the front step.
I just can't believe it's happening in such a tight-knit community.
We all know each other. There's only one way in, one way out.
We don't normally have problems here.
Hopefully it's like a bit of a one-off type of thing.
But it's not the first time this has happened. Stock swiped from the same cafe by a passing cyclist almost 8 months ago. After reporting the previous incident to police without much luck, the cafe is now turning to the community in the hopes that someone will recognise those responsible for the most recent theft. For legal reasons, we can't show their faces, but the cafe has shared the security vision to a local community Facebook group.
It's just a senseless act, so if anyone does know anyone that did this, please come forward.
Let's hope somebody recognises them and dobs them in.
In Lugano, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
Students enrolled in a healthcare degree in New South Wales can now apply for up to $12,000 in subsidies. Up to 850 nursing and 400 medical students expected to enter the subsidy program each year.
This is about creating a pipeline of the future healthcare professions that will serve our community and deliver the health services our community need and deserve.
Students who do apply must make a 5-year commitment to working in the state's health industry. Princess Anne has become a men's fashion icon, with high-end Italian brand Fendi using her as a muse for its latest collection at Milan Fashion Week, the designer labelling her the chicest woman in the world. Next in the news, Iceland's volcano emergency. Extraordinary scenes as lava swallows a town, homes catching fire. How barnacles could crack the mystery of how cocaine parcels landed on Sydney beaches. The changes airlines want at Sydney Airport to reduce flight cancellations. This one's out of this world, how Sydney engineers are cleaning up space. And life after tennis for Ash Barty, how the former world number 1 is still inspiring young Australians. A community in Iceland's southwest has been evacuated after a volcanic system erupted for the second time in a month. Molten lava consuming homes after hundreds of earthquakes shook the area.
The warning signs were there, and fortunately they were heeded. A fissure along Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula opening up, fountains of molten rock and lava bubbling and spewing into the air. A stream of red creeps menacingly towards the southwestern fishing village of Grindavik. Homes there bursting into flames. This river of magma is around 1200 degrees Celsius.
It's a bit of a weird feeling to
see a town being destroyed almost in slow motion at this point.
Hundreds of earthquakes prompted the evacuation of the village's 3,800 residents. Iceland's president says no lives were in danger. It's the second time they've fled. They left in November before the first major eruption last month, which spared the village on that occasion. This time, it was in the volcano's path. Not even newly built barriers could stop it.
I'm very sad at the moment. It's very difficult to see all these people who will lost their house probably very soon.
Seismic activity here remains constant. It comes after a search for a man who fell down a crack last week, working to fill crevices, had to be called off. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Barnacles could be the key to figuring out where more than 200 kilos of cocaine washed up on beaches between Sydney and Newcastle came from. Bricks of the drug started washing up over the Christmas-New Year period. Police now hoping experts will be able to work out how long they were in the water, which could then narrow down what shipment the drugs might belong to. Some airlines claim increasing wind speed limits would slash the number of cancelled flights through Sydney Airport. Virgin Australia and Qantas say increasing the maximum wind speed from 20 knots to 25 could reduce the number of times the airport is forced into single runway operations by as much as 75%. The Civil Aviation Safety Authority says it hasn't rejected the idea, but is yet to receive assurances over safety. Australia's first ever commercial satellite will today make its first appearance, heading for California, where it will be launched from SpaceX. It's hoped the groundbreaking technology will help keep our essential services online and stop space from becoming a dumping ground.
Outer space, an expansive void. But not as empty as you think. A dramatic increase in satellite launches and rising volumes of space debris now causing out-of-this-world chaos.
Not just with broken down satellites, but with collisions, we could be in a space where there would be no safe way for humans to travel to space.
Space Machines Company, along with the University of Technology Sydney, now on a mission to solve a universal problem.
More than 50% of satellites have failures in their first year of operations, and currently there is no solution. The only solution is to put more of them up there.
By 2030, there will be 70,000 satellites at risk of becoming space junk. But that's all about to change. Meet Optimus, a 250-kilogram satellite manoeuvrable from Earth, heading up a roadside assistance program in space.
Repairing, upgrading, disposing of satellites in orbit.
Rigorously tested and assembled over the past 4 months, it will now travel to Florida for takeoff.
This vehicle will go on the SpaceX Falcon rocket, and once it gets to space, it will separate.
This first orbital servicing vehicle will focus on inspecting satellites and diagnosing their issues. That data will then be used to fit out future Optimi with the tools needed for repairs.
The top part carries high-resolution imagers that actually help us look at objects in different ways, in different spectrums, that helps us understand what the problem might be for a satellite.
Really represents the future of the space industry in Australia.
One small step for Australia, one giant leap for the world. In Botany, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Australian tennis great Ash Barty officially launched her foundation today at Kooyong Lawn Tennis Club, the former home of the Australian Open. The 27-year-old said the Ash Barty Foundation aims to inspire communities and young people.
Our purpose is to provide opportunity to young boys and girls through sport and education, two of my biggest passion pieces, and I think now being able to bring it all together is really exciting.
Tonight, the Grand Slam winner will auction off prize match outfits to raise money for the community. Coming up in our news, we have breaking news on the Rozelle Parklands asbestos clean-up, plus the Chatswood man with an F-111 fighter jet in his driveway. Mike Dalton gets to the bottom of it. Also tonight, it doesn't get more Australian, a surfer's rescue of a roo being swept out to sea. James joins us from the Australian Open, where the countdown is on for Alex de Minaur's opening match.
And this crowd cannot wait tonight, Pete. Alex de Minaur carrying the hopes of a nation, but there's already been plenty for them to cheer on today. Alexei Poprin and Storm Hunter through to the second round on a day of incredible moments and incredible shots. All the highlights next. He's already starred for Australian cricket, but Cameron Green reveals why he's only now ready to deliver on his potential with the bat. Plus the emotional rollercoaster of being a sports fan, the NFL's wildcard round delivers a wild ending.
And don't pack away your brolly yet. The showers hanging around Sydney until the end of the week, so how much more rain can we expect?
Melbourne Park is heaving tonight ahead of Alex de Minaur's first Australian Open match. And it's already been a good day for the locals. Storm Hunter and Alexi Poprin both progressing to the second round.
Storm Hunter is the #1 doubles player in the world, but the Aussie had never made the singles second round at her home slam.
There's the set.
She was far too much for former Grand Slam finalist Sarah Arani, advancing in the Melbourne Park main draw for the first time in 11 attempts.
She's done it.
To win my first round in singles it's a dream come true. I've been kind of waiting for it for a few years, so very happy to get it done here today.
Reigning US Open champion Coco Gauff moved on with ease. World #3 Daniel Medvedev is often painted as the villain, but showed compassion for his emotional opponent. Terence Atman became increasingly frustrated with cramps, forced to retire. And Stefanos Tsitsipas started slow, but pulled out all his tricks to prevail over lucky loser Zizou Bergs.
Oh, has he made it? Is it legit?
What happened?
I've seen it, but I do not believe it.
In the top 50 and rising, Alexi Poprin powered past Mark Polmans in straight sets.
And Alexi Poprin through to round 2.
It's never easy playing a fellow Aussie, especially a friend like Marky.
He will face Novak Djokovic next. The 10-time champion was pushed to 4 sets by 18-year-old qualifier Dino Prismic.
Oh, what a way to break.
The Croatian youngster reminding the Serbian icon of himself.
Very physical game. I mean, almost 4 hours for 4 sets. It felt at some point that I was playing myself in the mirror already. If he continues this way, he's going to have a very bright career ahead of him, no doubt.
Tom Marriott, 9 News.
And now all eyes are on Alex de Minaur. He hits Rod Laver Arena very soon for that huge showdown with Milos Raonic. Casey Dellacqua joins me ahead of that clash. And Case, great to see you. After 3 top 10 wins at the United Cup, a lot is expected of the Demon tonight.
Yeah, look, record crowds here tonight at Melbourne Park to watch Alex kick off his Australian Open campaign. He's been in great form, as we know, and that top 10 in the world ranking's got to give him a lot of confidence. Look, when Milos Raonic saw the draw, I'm sure he wasn't too pleased that he's going to be facing Alex de Minaur tonight. I think with the crowd and the form that Alex is in, and Australia, everyone in Australia right behind him, I think he's got a good shot.
Well, the place will be packed tonight with good reason. It's the Demon, and then Naomi Osaka makes a long-awaited return after becoming a mum. Got Caroline Garcia, though, who'll be a tough challenger.
Yeah, certainly will. And this is going to be the battle of the big hitters. Obviously, Naomi has won here twice before, so it's always a good feeling when you come back to a place and, you know, kickstart off a comeback in a place that you've done really well before. But yeah, there's going to be some big hitting made. Who's going to come out on top? I'm not actually sure who's going to come out on top in this one, but it's going to be a ripping match.
Yeah, the two-time champ is back. It's great news, Case. I know you've got a busy night. We'll let you go.
Thanks, Brace.
Casey Dellacqua joining us here at the Australian Open. Moving on to cricket now, and Cameron Green, well, he burst onto the scene as Australian cricket's next big thing. And now, after 6 months out of the Australian team, he says he's ready to live up to that tag. But it's not the role he expected. Green revealing he was training to replace David Warner, not Steve Smith.
He scored a century and claimed a 5-wicket haul, but only now does Cameron Green believe he can kick-start his Test career.
I'm very excited. I think I've let all the guys know obviously how much I love playing at number 4 and obviously grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that.
He's played 24 Tests batting at 6, but since making his debut as a 21-year-old, selectors have always viewed Green as our next number 4.
What I like is I've got a bit of time. I've always felt maybe a touch rushed at 6, especially after Heady. He makes it look a bit too easy at number 5. So, yeah, I've always felt like I've maybe had to push the game along where I feel like number 4 is my natural game where, yeah, I can take my time and settle in.
It's an opportunity he didn't think he'd get. Losing the all-rounders role to Mitchell Marsh after suffering injury at the Ashes, Green had begun training for the top of the order.
I thought I was about 95% chance of opening. So that's where my head went for a couple of weeks.
Instead, Steve Smith took that spot, and part of his reason was getting Green back into the team, placing him squarely in the spotlight.
I don't feel any pressure. Obviously, replacing someone like Steve is pretty tough, but yeah, I'm just going to play my own way. But obviously, I'm grateful for him putting that in his mind. It's always nice to hear, but you've got to also showcase it on the main stage. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Smith is adjusting to life at the top, leaving training today for a tea time with Usman Khawaja ahead of their first test together as openers. Sam Jordan, 9 News.
David Warner managed just 13 runs in the Thunder's thumping 9-wicket Big Bash loss to the Strikers. Set 140 to win. Adelaide skipper Matt Short belted an unbeaten 74 to get his side home with 23 balls remaining. The Strikers' fourth straight win, sealing their spot in the playoffs where they'll face the Sydney Sixers or Perth Scorchers in an elimination final. Well, winners in their Asian Cup opener, the Socceroos insist they'll be taking Syria seriously in their second pool game on Thursday night.
All those nations in Asia, they're all improving. All of them. You know, it's not like you can just turn up and we walk right past them. We have to work hard, we be focused. You know, we need to play our good football.
Despite trailing 2-1, tournament favourites Japan fought back to kick off their campaign with a 4-2 win over Vietnam. Well, Tottenham fought back twice to claim a 2-2 draw with Manchester United in the Premier League this morning. Ange Postecoglou's men conceding both goals in the first half, but couldn't find the winner, which would have seen them climb to fourth on the ladder. Aston Villa missed the chance to join Liverpool at the top, drawing 0-0 with Everton. And Detroit has won its first NFL playoffs game in 32 years, beating the LA Rams by just 1 point to progress to the NFC divisional round. Their 24-23 win, leaving some fans in tears as the Lions took down their former quarterback, Matthew Stafford, in his return to Detroit. The Green Bay Packers pulled off a wildcard stunner, upsetting the Cowboys 48-32. Dallas conceding the most points they ever have in a postseason game. Their 16-match winning streak at home and their season coming to a disappointing end. Pete, nothing disappointing about the tennis coming your way. See you in a few minutes' time.
14.5 minutes to be precise, James. Thank you. Next in the news, we have news just in. More asbestos found at Rosehill Parklands. Breaking details on the plan to clear it out. Plus, an F111 parked in a man's Chatswood driveway will explain his bizarre plane project. And a roo swimming outside the flags, saved by a surfer. To news just in, and more soil from the Rosehill Parklands has returned positive to asbestos. Transport for New South Wales tonight confirming 14 of 92 soil samples taken from the site contain the dangerous material. The Environmental Protection Authority has given the government until the 29th of February to clear all the mulch from the area. He's the snake catcher taking DIY to new heights. Harley Jones is piecing together one of the world's greatest long-range strike aircraft, an F111, in his Chatswood driveway.
It served Australia for almost 4 decades at a window shattering 1 kilometre per second. But the F111 was retired in 2010, except at the home of snake catcher Harley Jones.
Righto, mate. Why have you got the fuselage of an F111 parked in the driveway of your home?
Well, I guess for the age of about 5 years old, when I first sat in the cockpit of an F111, they became a bit of an obsession.
Harley's driveway project, raising the collective brows of US military types, given F111 parts can fit on F-14 fighters with the Iranian Air Force.
Bit of touchiness about that. I had to go through the Department of Homeland Security in the States and everything to get parts and get an ITAR permit.
What are you trying to do here?
I don't know.
Harley would spend COVID learning how to weld and wire to fuel his passion.
All the lights come on, all the instruments will run, all the screens will have things behind them, and yeah, it'll look like an operational aircraft.
And the neighbours don't seem to mind the next-door airfield.
Yeah, a bit of surprise. We couldn't figure out for a while what's happening.
Terrible weather today, mate. Not very good for flying.
Yeah, no, it's I nearly got flooded out last night, so lucky it's up on the chocks because it would have floated away, I think.
That probably means Harley can turn his attention to his next fixer-upper, the half-cabin cruiser named unsinkable too. In Chatswood, Mike Dalton, 9 News.
One of the finance world's greatest rivalries has entered a new chapter, with Apple being toppled as the most valuable listed company. Here's our finance editor, Chris Kohler.
We may be talking about multi-trillion-dollar companies, but they're still jostling each other out of the way. For the first time in 2 years, Microsoft has overtaken Apple as the biggest listed company in the world, worth over 4.3 trillion Australian dollars. In the age of AI, investors seem to be leaning more towards Microsoft, but don't feel too bad for Apple. It could still afford to cover the superannuation of every single Australian and have plenty of change left over. As for our much smaller share market, steady today, quiet with Wall Street closed tonight for Martin Luther King Day. But the company behind Supercheap Auto, Rebel Sport, BCF and Macpac announced a record revenue and its shares hit their highest level ever. And the Australian dollar is buying less than 67 US cents, 61 euro cents and 52.5 British pence.
Good on you, Chris. Thank you. Looking at the price of unleaded across Sydney tonight, the average is $1.83.2 a litre. You can find it cheaper at David Street in Greenacre and Fairford Road, Padstow. Bounding off the rocks at Bawley Point, straight into trouble. The kangaroo needed a helping hand to keep its head above water today, and a surfer at the Shoalhaven beach answered the call. He paddled out to the roo and brought it to shore, the animal taking about an hour to recover before it returned to the bush. Coming up in our news, Belinda with the weather.
Thanks, Pete. There's a high chance of more showers across Sydney tonight. Right now, it's only 19 degrees in our west, 22 in the city. Some warmer weather is on the way. So when will summer return to Sydney? The forecast is next. Welcome back. What happened to summer? A cool and cloudy start to the week. Sydney copping a drenching overnight. More than 100 millimetres falling over North Rocks and North Parramatta. Currajong Heights in the Blue Mountains receiving more than 150. Richmond had its wettest day in nearly 2 years, and today was our coolest day this month. Temperatures in our outer west up to 10 degrees below the January average. Penrith only making it to 21 and the city stopping at 24. The rain and fresh southeasterlies finally bringing some relief from those muggy conditions. Tonight, heavy rainfall is developing across parts of northern New South Wales with localised severe storms out west. And conditions remaining unstable tomorrow, a trough generating showers and storms across western New South Wales, while onshore winds drive showers over eastern parts. Showers and a top of 29 in Brisbane, a cool summer day for Canberra, only making it to 23, with a shower or two. Warm and windy in Melbourne for day 3 of the tennis. Back home, and you can see those scattered showers in the east, isolated showers in the west. There's also the chance of isolated thunderstorms right across our state, apart from the southeast. Daytime temperatures mostly below average with fresh and gusty winds along the coast. Sydney is in for another wet and cloudy day. There is a very high chance of showers, most likely in the morning and the afternoon. Showers and a storm also possible in the evening. 4 to 20 millimetres forecast in our west tomorrow and 5 to 15 in the city. Light to moderate winds shifting northeasterly, so temperatures creeping up again, but still up to 5 degrees cooler than average in our west. Most suburbs heading for a top of 26, just slightly warmer in the city, reaching 27. And overnight temperatures back to normal, ranging from 17 to 21. The rain clouds are expected to stick around until the end of the week. 2 to 15 millimetres forecast on Wednesday, easing to just a shower or two on Thursday, finding up on Friday. And at this stage, the weekend is looking good. Partly cloudy skies and heating up to 30 degrees on Sunday. More showers for our west as well. A warm one on Thursday, hitting 35. Fine and 32 on Friday, then a shower or two on Saturday and 34 on Sunday. So showers for the next 3 days, but plenty of sunshine over the weekend. Something to look forward to, Pete.
Belinda, thank you. The Australian Open is next. That is 9 News for this Monday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night